Webull is the stock app and trading platform that everybody's using, and I mean everybody's using. You've seen it all over YouTube. I use it on my own channel to show what's happening in the market. You pay 0 commission fees. You can own fractional shares. You can even trade in cryptocurrencies and access real-time market data. Use my referral link, chainsawccc.com/Webull. That's chainsawccc.com/Webull, Webull, and get your 2 free stocks. Simply by opening an account and depositing any amount, get you 2 free stocks from Webull. Believe me, you're going to want this one. So moments after President Joe Biden's press conference on the 9th, making reference to his changes that he wants to make regarding OSHA, for vaccinations for federal employees, vaccinations for businesses with over 100 employees. Governor Mike Parson, in his infinite wisdom, went to jump on social media, and he gave us this tweet to consider. Let's see. The Biden administration, and this is from September 9th. The Biden administration's recent announcement seeking to dictate personal freedom and private business decisions is an insult to our American principles of individual liberty and free enterprise. This heavy-handed action by the federal government is unwelcome in our state and has potentially dangerous consequences for working families. Dangerous consequences? Idaho? Did we hear about this? Let's continue. Vaccination protects us from serious illness, but the decision to get vaccinated is a private healthcare decision that should remain as such. My administration will always fight back against federal power grabs and government overreach that threatens to limit our freedoms. Government overreach? You mean like how Attorney General Erich Schmitt is actually suing, bringing several lawsuits against local school districts regarding their in-house mask mandates, which you, Mike Parson, had already said last year that you're going to leave it up to local governments and local, leave it up to city governments to handle, the municipal governments to handle themselves, leave it up to businesses to handle themselves, leave it up to school districts to handle themselves, and yet says nothing when A.G. Schmitt decides we're going to bring the hammer, full force of the law down on these folks. But, I guess that's government overreach when Joe Biden does it. But that's another story for another time. The hypocrisy is just astounding. Same day, Attorney General Erich Schmitt had posted this on his Twitter. Let's see. His response to Joe Biden, of course. Missouri has a national leader in Missouri has been a national leader in pushing back against the Biden administration and COVID-related mandates. Biden's historic overreach on vaccine mandates will not stand in Missouri. Okay, you're the guy who was bringing lawsuits against schools. Like, Governor Parson, I guess, if he wants to talk about government overreach, like that's what. But Erich Schmitt, you do not have a right to talk about government overreach, like basically ever, bro. You're suing schools because they want to do what they do, and you're the Attorney General of the entire state of Missouri. Biden's historic overreach of mask mandates. How about Erich Schmitt's historic overreach on mask mandates? That also will not stand in Missouri. We're at a crossroads in America, who we are and what we're going to be. We must fight back. Wow. I mean, the audacity. Can you believe it? So Senate Majority Leader Caleb Rowden posted his tweet in response. This is one of the most egregious overreach attempts from a president I have ever witnessed. 1, much of this nonsense will get laughed out of court, presumably. 2, Missouri legislation should take action to protect Missourians and Missouri businesses ASAP. Hashtag MoLeg. I'm new to Twitter, and I try to keep my tweets a little bit more professional than that, but I digress. For a better look at professionalism, let's take a look at his response to Vice President Kamala Harris. His retweet of her speaking with The Hill. So The Hill's tweet. Vice President Kamala Harris is quoted as saying, "The right of women to make decisions about their own bodies is not negotiable. The right of women to make decisions about their own bodies is their decision. It is their body. And Caleb Browden, local musician, composer of such record hits like Free from Ordinary, Until Everyone is Free, and of course Made to Worship. His retweet, and of course he is the state of Missouri's Senate Majority Leader. He's a senator, the state of Missouri State Senate. His retweet: unless you are a woman who chooses not to get vaccinated, then your opinion about your body is irrelevant. Unless you are a woman who chooses not to get vaccinated, then your opinion about your body is irrelevant. That's just, it doesn't get any more disgusting than that, I don't think. And it certainly doesn't have to. But, so, same day, a little bit later, next day, a little bit later, Associated Press published an article, Parson weighs special session to respond to Biden COVID plan. So this is from September 10th. We'll take a look at it here. Jefferson City, Missouri. Republican Missouri Governor Mike Parson is considering calling a special legislative session to challenge President Joe Biden's plan to require COVID-19 vaccination or testing for many workers. Parson told the Kansas City Star in an interview Friday that Missouri will oppose the White House initiative on multiple fronts. He didn't elaborate, but left open the possibility of a special session. I don't plan on letting that happen in Missouri. Parson said of the mandate or testing proposals, I think the president is totally wrong on the policy he's setting forth. Boy, you wouldn't think he'd let the attorney general just bring lawsuits against local school districts for mandating masks in their schools for the safety of children. Imagine that. Biden announced sweeping new orders Thursday that will require employers with more than 100 workers to mandate immunizations or offer weekly testing. The new rules could affect as many as 100 million Americans, although it's not clear how many of those are currently unvaccinated. The U.S. is still struggling to curb the surging Delta variant of the coronavirus, which is killing thousands each week and jeopardizing the nation's economic recovery. Representative Tony Lavasco, an O'Fallon Republican, wrote to Parson asking that legislators be allowed to address the Biden plan. He said the president's plan demands an immediate response. Well, it's about time they think something demands an immediate response. The House Judiciary, it's unfortunately the wrong thing. The House Judiciary Committee is planning to meet Wednesday to hear from Missourians about the vaccination plan. Lawmakers will already be at the Capitol for a short session to consider whether to override Parson's vetoes on bills. Republican House leaders in a joint statement called Biden's move an abusive overreach by Washington bureaucrats who are out of touch with what is best for Missouri's businesses and families. As Friday, whether Missouri's response to Biden would involve a lawsuit by Republican Attorney General Erich Schmitt or a special session, Parson included, I think, multiple fronts. We're going to fight on that. The Delta variant hit hard in Missouri in June and isn't letting up. And yet this is something that needs their immediate attention. The state on Friday reported 2,544 newly confirmed cases, 20 new deaths, and an increase of 74 patients in hospitals to 2,033. Missouri's reported 647,335 cases since the onset of the pandemic and 10,861 deaths. And yet this is something that these guys feel needs their immediate attention. Wow. You've got to be kidding me. Their immediate attention, like we have to pool all of our resources and figure out how to handle this. Not dead Americans, not dead Missourians. I mean, wow. The audacity of these guys to pull this stuff right before September 11th. Right before September 11th. The audacity. I mean, and I don't mean that to be political, but it really isn't. Here's the thing. Over 500,000 Americans are dead because of COVID. Not because of illness, not because of respiratory failure, not because of car accidents, not because of alcoholism, not because of homicide, because of COVID-19. Okay? Wow. 647,000 cases in Missouri. Almost 11,000 dead Missourians. just Missourians. And yet, vaccine mandates through OSHA, something that is very much, you know, the president is very much able to do, is something that needs their attention immediately. So we'll get into that. So back to Twitter real quick. Governor Mike Parson, same day, our administration will reject the Biden administration's attempt to enforce an unconstitutional federal vaccine mandate for Missourians and private businesses. The Office of Governor has been in communication with leadership in the state of Missouri, Missouri's General Assembly, and the Attorney General Office to assign resources for a pending legal fight. So let's hear from Attorney General Erich Schmitt. Okay, so his response: Missouri has been a national leader in pushing back against the Biden administration COVID-related mandates. We're at a crossroads, right? No vaccine mandates, no mask mandates, no lockdowns, no vaccine passports. Well, at least he's consistent there, because his previous post about government overreach doesn't really key up when it comes to consistency, because his office, again, is suing local schools. And yet President Biden wanting to put a vaccine mandate through OSHA for employers having more than 100 employees is government overreach. I mean, can you see the hypocrisy just swelling as the days go by here? And lastly, from Attorney General Erich Schmitt, we must continue to fight back against the unprecedented accumulation of power under the guise of COVID. It won't stop with vaccine mandates. What kind of whack job conspiratorial crap is that? Where does it stop then? Where's the next step? I'm super curious. More people are waking up to the fact that this is a slow march to socialism and authoritarian rule. We need to stand together and fight back. Slow march to socialism, you say? Wow, that's interesting. Authoritarian rule, you say? That's super interesting. So, again, the next day, Erich Schmitt posted on his Twitter, does anyone really believe that the left won't declare in-person voting to be too dangerous next year? Mail-in ballots, no signature verification, ballot harvesting, it's all coming, and their big tech media partners will give them cover. Boy, it just, the conspiracies, they just keep building and building and building. I mean, he is running for Senate, so, you know, that's definitely got to play to the base, right? The conspiracy theorists, the QAnon whack jobs. I mean, like I said, this is not a Republican or a Democrat issue. Healthcare, COVID, none of this stuff. None of this stuff is Republican or Democrat. It's simply healthcare. It's simply what it is. I mean, it can be made political by this sort of atmosphere. Firstly, if we want to be consistent with that, I would say very easily the solution would be to not be putting together a lawsuit against school districts to stop their mask mandates in places where they know how to handle themselves. Okay, they're talking about government overreach and then committing the same. It's not even it's the exact same kind of government overreach. I mean, how can you not see the hypocrisy in their own actions? So furthermore, once these leaders aggregate the kind of power and control they are attempting to wield under COVID, they never want to let it go. In fact, they want more. Later that day, he posts a republic if you can keep it, hearkening back to Benjamin Franklin. Post-Labor Day policy reset for the Biden administration is more of the same, fear and mandates. But I gotta say, my favorites are what comes next. Joe Biden doesn't have the legal authority to force COVID vaccines on millions of Americans. His proposal is unlawful and historic in its overreach. Erich Schmitt doing just what Erich Schmitt knows how to do best. Lawsuits are coming. Wow. So see you in court. Of course. I mean, that's what this guy does. I mean, obviously that's what this guy does because he's the attorney general, but he's suing So he's a state attorney general. He's suing the federal government, or he's wanting to sue the federal government for government overreach. Meanwhile, he's using his powers as AG to sue local school districts because of their requirements for their students in masks. It only gets weirder from here, and I want to jump into that, but first let's just take a real quick break, and we'll see just how weird Erich Schmitt can get.